Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and once again, welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we've got a great show for you this evening. As just indicated, we're going to be starting things off here in just a moment with another interesting discussion on the Coach's Corner panel. I've got a couple of guys in the wings that I will introduce momentarily. And a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined by the VP of Marketing and Distribution from BATCADDY, Paul Guzman. He was actually on the show, I believe, July of 2022. He's got some new updates with them and some exciting stuff and offers coming up for Black Friday here in just a little bit. So he'll be joining us on the second half of the show, but I want to thank everybody for tuning in live tonight. And also, just another note of point, if you will, that I just want to let everybody know. We've got another couple of shows this month. Then we'll be breaking for Thanksgiving week, both of the shows, this one and Women of Golf, which airs Tuesdays with my good friend, LPGA professional Cindy Miller. And then I will have another couple of shows in December, the first 2 weeks of December. And then I will be taking, as well as Cindy with our other show, a nice long break. So the rest of the holidays in December, of course, will be breaking. And the month of January, as I'll be heading down to the PGA show at the end of that month. And we'll be working on the schedules for next season. And things will be firing back up in February for both shows. Normally I do a little bit of a light program for both of the shows, and then we get into sort of the full production, particularly for Golf Talk Live with the Coach's Corner panel fires back up in March. So I'll be sending the sheets out, if you will, and getting everybody to register for next year, and I'll be excited to have them back. So on that note, let's get ready for Coach's Corner and get ready to introduce the guys.
This segment of Coach's Corner is brought to you by Brush Tee. Ready to maximize every drive this season? Grab every yard? Take the advantage. Approved by the RNA and USGA, it's not cheating, but seems like it is. Brush Tee, a premium and innovative tee, features fast flex bristles that cradle the ball to create a nearly frictionless impact zone to gain unexpected yardage. Visit brushtee.com and use promo code GolfTips for a 10% discount. That's brushtee.com, promo code GolfTips for 10% off your next order.
All right, let me introduce the guys coming on tonight. First up is John Decker. John is the Director of Instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also a Senior Contributing Editor and Top 25 Instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. He was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year and has authored of two books. First one is Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. And his most recent release is Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. He's also available upon request for public speaking. Also joining on the panel tonight is Brian Dobby. He is a PGA teacher professional and currently at Trump National in Bedminster, New Jersey. Formerly, he was at the Montclair Golf Club in New Jersey, where he spent 18 years teaching and winning multiple New Jersey section awards. Also previously recognized as the 2012 Teacher of the Year and ranked number 7 in Golf Digest Top Teachers in New Jersey. So, guys, welcome to the Coach's Corner panel here tonight on Golf Talk Live.
Great to be with you tonight, Ted.
I appreciate it, guys. All right, I'm going to start as I introduced you guys in order, and we're going to talk just a few things, and I just want to try to focus on specific things here so we don't sort of jump ahead, if you don't mind. And we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of the golf swing. And, John, the first question I have for you is really very, I think, common. There's a lot of misunderstandings, I think, by average golfers about the golf swing itself. So obviously it's a moving function, if you will, even though we're not moving it like in other sports, but our bodies are moving and swing. What are some of the common, and you can just pick one or two if you want, that mistakes or things that you see, misunderstandings by many of our amateur golfers that you see when it comes to the golf swing? What are some of the common misunderstandings, if you will?
Well, first of all, Ted, thank you for having me on the show. And, Brian, I look forward to being on with you as well. Well, this is a really kind of a question where I could go a lot of different directions, but I would like to probably start with the grip. I think the word grip itself, if you think about it, it sounds like if someone says to grip something, you feel like you need to squeeze it really tight. And if someone has asked me to hold on to something really tightly, my forearms would lock up. I would put whatever the object was in the palm of my hand, and I would squeeze with my fingers as tight as I could if I was going to really hold on to something. But in reality, when you're gripping the golf club, it's how you place your hands. So I like to think of it as how you place your hands on the club. And the first thing that you want to do is you want to put the club in the fingers. You do not want to put the club in the palm of your hand in the right or the left hand. The fingers are where the club is going to be held. So I'm holding the club tightly with my fingers, but my wrists are nice and relaxed so that when I swing the club, my wrists can hinge and release naturally. This is very easy to do, or much easier to do, I should say, if you're holding the club in the fingers. And a lot of times for a right-handed player, we'll talk about the V. So the V of my left hand, I always want my students to put their left hand on the club first and then the right hand. I think it can be confusing if you try to put both hands on at the same time. So when you're gripping the club, obviously you get in the fingers and you try to get the V of the thumb and the index finger pointing towards your right shoulder. And again, this would be for a right-handed player. And then the right hand goes on, and then the V for the right hand should mirror the left hand as well. Now, there is a connection between the hands, and this can be done with either the 10-finger grip, an interlocking, or overlapping. I would recommend for the listeners out there to get with your local PGA golf professional to talk to you about the hand size, your hand size and how you hold the club. But for most players, the 10-finger, for a lot of beginners, I'll go with 10-finger, and the interlock is most players are going to go with those two grips. But I think that if you can understand how you're supposed to hold the club, I think that takes care of a lot of the problems that you're going to see in the golf swing, because the grip directly affects the club face, and the club face is going to affect your swing. So if you have a grip that's weak or promotes an open club face, then you're going to tend to swing to the left of the target and make deep divots. You're going to have all kind of problems. If you have a grip that's too strong, you're going to tend to hold on more. You're going to tend to have issues with the club face as well, and then making the ball go right or left. So I think that would probably be the first place that I would start with any student, and that's one of the things I do with all students is look at their grip first.
Yeah, some great points, and obviously there's some variations that can be made, and this is why it's important to get together with your local professionals so that they can help you ascertain what's going to work. Because sometimes, I think I agree with you. I think a fairly neutral grip is good for most players, but some might have to have. Obviously there's a lot of professionals out there on tour that have had a slightly stronger grip. Some have even had a little weaker grip. So you really have to find out what works best for you. But typically, as a general rule, I agree exactly with what you say, is there's a way to approach that, and you need to make sure, because that's what's holding the club, and the club is what's obviously going to be used to strike the ball. So that's some great points that you bring up. Brian, I want to move on to another area, and that is the stance. And I want to just get your thoughts on what some components of a good stance, because this is something I see with a lot of people. What are some of the components, and is there room, kind of like the grip, where there's some room for adjustments, given that we're all different? Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, a little heavier, a little lighter, what have you. And if so, what might be to be? So what are some of the good components of a good stance, and is there some flexibility for adjustments? Let me hear your thoughts on that.
Hey, Ted, first off, thanks for having me on the show. And, John, it's always great to hear your words of wisdom on the golf swing, and looking forward to hearing both of you tonight. Ted, the stance is a great topic here. I think the first thing that came to my mind was getting some sort of balance between your feet, and obviously we can have our feet wide and narrow, and that also correlates with a power source. So I like to look at the stance and see if it matches the shot the player's trying to hit. So say you're trying to hit a 20-yard pitch shot. I don't like to see a wide stance. I'd like to see a narrower stance, and I want it to match the shot we're trying to hit. So say it would definitely get wider with a driver. The other thing to look at with the stance, I think, besides balance, is your feet and your positioning of your feet. I think depending on the flexibility of the player, players looking for more distance might want to flare their right foot out a little bit at address to open up the right hip and get a little bit more of a deeper backswing. I don't think a lot of our students are aware of how the foot placement can affect how their hips open and close in the swing. So that's very important. And like I said before, balance. I see a lot of people setting up with too much weight on their toes, which can lead to our hands getting closer to the ball and getting some heel shots and stuff like that. So being aware of the feet, being aware of your stance to make it match the shot is so important. And I think the ball position would be the next thing. Where are you putting the ball in your stance? Most iron shots, I think a good starting point for beginners is somewhere in the middle of the stance, but how that ball position in your stance is definitely going to affect your low point and where your weight shifts from right foot to left foot. So that's just a great question, Ted. And all our students should definitely talk about the stance with their local PGA pro or their coach.
Yeah, great points. And obviously, we don't want to forget the posture. You want to make sure. We see a lot of amateur golfers, especially as we start getting up into more of our seniors, that unfortunately in the winter months, especially up in the Northeast and Northwest and that where colder climates are, they tend to become a couch potato and don't get out there, and you start seeing some hunched over shoulders and whatnot. So obviously, in addition to having a good stance, you want to make sure your posture is good as well. And that's why I think it's important at any time of the year to get that checked out and work with your local professional. The reason why I started off with those two questions, and you guys did a great job as always, is, in John's case, we're starting off with the hands. That's what's holding the club. That's what you're going to use to obviously strike the golf ball. And then, of course, the stance involves the feet. You want to make sure your feet are positioned correctly. And again, there's obviously some flexibility. Some people may have a little bit more open. Some people may have a little slightly closed stance. Again, this is where you want to work these things out with your professional to find out what's going to work best for you, because we are all different. Nicholas always had a slightly open stance, not that much, but somewhat. Trevino had a very open stance compared to most players. So there's a lot of flexibility, but it's something that you have to work with your local professional to make sure that he or she is able to help guide you and find out what best works for you in both cases. So great answers, guys. John, I'm coming back to you, and this is sort of a multi-prong, if you will, but I want to talk about backswing, downswing, and follow-through. What in these areas of the swing seems to really stymie the average golfer? What is it? We're talking about getting loaded up, obviously, in the backswing, downswing, and follow-through happen much quicker than the backswing. But these three areas seem to create a myriad of problems for our average golfer out there. So give us your thoughts. First off, how do we make sure, obviously the first two questions, we want to make sure those are working correctly. That's going to help get us in a good posture and so forth. But where do you see some of the areas that really cause a lot of problems in either of those areas that I mentioned?
Well, for me personally, I believe that the backswing is the most difficult, the takeaway is the most difficult part of the golf swing. I think that getting the club started properly, you need to think of your golf swing like dominoes. So if you don't get the first domino to fall properly, then the rest of the dominoes aren't going to fall. And so if you have a takeaway that is too quick, is too slow, is too wristy, is not wristy enough, is too much inside, too much outside. I mean, there's a lot of things that can break down in the takeaway. A good golf grip can be destroyed by a bad takeaway. So if I have a really good golf grip, but I roll my hands wide open, now I've taken a good golf grip and turned it into a bad golf grip, because guess what? Now the club face is opened up, and now I'm going to have swing path issues, and it's going to cause a domino effect of bad things to happen. We want a domino effect of good things to happen. So a lot of times I'll have a 2x4 and I'll put it behind the club, and I have my students push the 2x4, and I'm talking about a small 2x4, like a block of wood, not a large one. Or you can do like a medicine ball or even a golf ball. Put a golf ball behind your club and push it back using your back and shoulders to kind of maintain that kind of one-piece takeaway. Then as we start getting into the backswing, you know, a lot of students have the idea that the backswing is when the club goes all the way back. The backswing is over really when the left arm for a right-handed golfer is parallel to the ground. And so that's about the end of the backswing. Now, the club will continue going because the club has momentum, but when the left arm is parallel to the ground, that's when we start the transition of your swing. Now, this is a sequence that I usually teach with drills. If you go on my website, deckergolf.com, I've got tons of transition drills. They're under the full swing section of videos. And that's a great way to understand when to start your swing. So as the club's going back, then when we transition with the downswing. The downswing at this point, you know, in the golf swing, if you've taken the club back properly, you're going to most likely have no problems in your downswing. I know immediately whether I'm going to hit a good shot kind of by the way I take it back. If I take it back the wrong way, then I know in my downswing I start feeling my arms and hands take over to make up for the fact that I haven't taken it back properly. So the downswing is kind of the effect of just all of those, everything that you've created in that backswing, and then your downswing is just allowing the club to swing with gravity, with the rotation of our body, and then going all the way into a follow-through. Now, all of that sounds really complicated. If you keep it real simple, if you work on, you know, you have a good setup like we've talked about, you get your takeaway right, and then you learn to rotate and turn to the target, a lot of these things will take care of themselves. So depending on the problem with the student, some people have problems in their transition. They have really short back swings. Well, every time I see someone with a short backswing, they have a quick transition. And every time I see someone with an overswing, they have a slow transition. So identifying your tendencies of being fast and slow will help you to understand how you load the club, whether you load the club properly or not, how you load the club. It can also affect the equipment that you use. So there's a lot of tendencies that we see in the transition that are important as well. So there's a lot. I know I've thrown a lot at you there, but that's when you start talking about backswing, downswing, and follow-through, there's a lot there to discuss.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot of, as they say, a lot of meat on the bones. And, you know, you're right. I mean, you obviously want to get things started off correctly with your backswing. I mean, it's as you eloquently pointed out, it's like a domino effect. And if you can't get things started correctly in the backswing, it's going to create other issues a little bit later on. And because the golf swing is really a very quick process, if you don't have things set correctly, it's very difficult. I mean, you know, you can't just, I shouldn't say you can't. I mean, obviously we've seen Tiger do this, where he would literally get into the backswing, something would interfere with his thought process, and he would literally stop midstream in the downswing. And, you know, I don't recommend that for most golfers. I mean, I'm sure that's caused him a few aches and pains over the years doing that when you're transitioning. But you raised some really interesting points. And again, can't emphasize enough, this is why you want to work with a teacher, whether it's a teacher professional, your swing coach, what have you, whatever you want to call him or her is up to you. But you definitely want to get together with them and work on some of the things and make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Brian, I'm coming back to you. And this is something, you know, that everybody gets faced with. And what I'd like for you to do is maybe just give one or two examples. We're talking about hazards. What are the types of hazards? I mean, we've maybe hit a decent shot, or at least what we thought was a decent shot off the tee, only to find ourselves in one of the many hazards that golf architects throw our way. Maybe give us one or two examples of some of the hazards we might be faced with out in the golf course, and typically how would you play from them? Give us some options. Maybe give us one sort of a general one, and then maybe one where there might be a little bit more thought process has to go into it. So what are some of the hazards golfers are going to be faced with out there, and give us some options of how you might advise them to handle it.
So Ted, great question. So hazards, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, either some type of water area or bunker area. So let's start with bunkers. Fairway bunkers would probably be the first hazard we'd get into off a tee shot. And I find, like, the bunkers we have at our club, they have a lot of high lips in them. So if you happen to get into a fairway bunker, before you look at the distance to the green, take a look at how big the lip is in front of you and make sure you have enough loft in the club to get over the lip. So that's the first thing I look for there, and then I consider the distance. All right, and we were talking about stance earlier. Ball position, fairway bunker shots, I tend to get a little bit more centered so I can pick the ball. So I would deal with that way, and then try to make a swing that's more steady where you're not moving around a lot. So again, you can pick the ball. So look for that. But I find most of my students don't take clubs that can actually get over the lip in front of them. Other hazards on the golf course could easily be the rough. We don't call the rough a hazard, but depending on how long the grass is, try to avoid that off the tee box as much as you can by aiming for the fairways. But if you do get in the long rough, I find that most of my average students take clubs that don't have enough loft on them, and the club twists in the grass, and they don't get it out far enough. So make sure you have enough loft on your club, and if it means taking a sand wedge or a pitching wedge to get back in play, that's the best club for that situation. So I consider rough a hazard because it makes the game harder when you're in that. And then sometimes we're faced with shots that might be near a water hazard or what have you, and if your ball is submerged more than a half of ball, don't attempt to try to hit it out, and that's given if you can even get a stance on it. So those are some of the pitfalls of playing golf, and sometimes your ball ends up in all these different areas, but I definitely recommend trying to practice them first so you have an idea of how to execute the shot. So I would look at those, Ted.
Yeah, and those are just a few. I mean, there's many others to consider. There's some that may require you to actually incur penalties if you're getting into a situation where obviously it gets out of bounds or gets into other situations. Sometimes you might have to even hit a provisional ball as well in some situations because you're not quite clear on how things are situated. And so you have to look at a number of different options. But great points that you raised. And the main thing really, I think, Brian, is you want, as a golfer, you want to really assess the situation, find out if it's a shot based on your current abilities. Is this a shot I can comfortably play, get out of that bunker if the lip is too high and I'm not used to it? Even if I select the right club, if I'm not confident in doing that, maybe I might need to hit it out to the side a little bit and take my lumps, and I've got to shoot a little further, perhaps, and not, but you have to look at those options. And I think any situation, you always want to assess it and base it on your true abilities. Don't, get into fantasy land and start trying to think you're going to hit a hero shot. So you definitely got to assess the situation and then play based on that. But some great points as well. John, I'm coming back to you, and this is one here, again, a number of things, factors that have to be looked at here, and we're talking about green reading. What are we looking for when we're reading greens? Obviously, it's not just the distance. There's other factors that we're looking at. Maybe you could touch on a few of them, and maybe even walk us through what you typically would do when the ball makes it onto the green and you've got yourself a putt of whatever length, and you can give an example. What is it that you try to do before you actually step up and stroke the putt?
Well, Ted, the first thing that I do when my ball gets on the green is I start reading the green from off of the green. So I could be 150, 200 yards away, but as soon as I'm on the green, I start looking at where's the pin, where is my ball in relationship to that pin, and I start assessing it myself. Okay, I'm going to have a downhill putt, or I'm going to have an uphill putt. I always or my putt's going to break to the right or the left. Now, if you're playing a golf course that you've never played before and you get on the green and you're far away, you may not be able to tell that. But as you start getting closer to the green, I don't care what golf course you're playing, as you're about 100 yards out, you have a very big picture of what the green looks like. Now, the next thing I look for is what we call the linear plane of the green, which is the high point and the low point. So I try to find the highest point of the green, and then I try to find the lowest point. And usually, most greens are tilted back to front. So the back of the green is higher than the front. Not all greens, but most greens. So I try to locate the high point and the low point. And just so that you understand with the linear plane of a green, you could have a bunch of different slopes in that green, but from the high point to the low point is a straight putt. So you can hit a straight putt, and the putt could break 5 or 6 different ways, but it'll eventually straighten out. So there is a linear plane to the green because greens are built to drain water. The architect is trying to drain the water so that when it rains, there's no puddling on the green. And keep in mind also that a green can have several linear planes. I've been on golf courses before where greens have different linear planes, where you could have like a turtleback, like a Donald Ross turtleback green. The linear plane, the highest point might be the center of the green, and the lowest points are the sides. So the turtleback greens are very difficult greens, obviously, to putt on. The second thing I look for is the high areas around the green. So if I'm standing on the green, I look for high areas, which are usually around bunkers, and we call those like crowns. A lot of times they could be in the center of the green. Anytime the pin is on the high area of the green, they're very difficult to get to because the ball is going to tend to roll away. It may come up short and roll back to your feet. It could, if you hit a little too far, it could go way past and go down the hill, or right or left, it can curve off as well. So there's high areas, which we call crowns. And then if you have a high area, well, you have to have a low area. So the low area is going to be saddles or valleys, as I call it. So you have the crowns are the high areas of the green, and then the valleys are the low areas. So when I'm on the green, those are the things that I'm looking for as well. Now, as far as reading putts, the best way to read a putt is to walk up to the hole. Your feet will never lie to you. I could blindfold anyone, and I could walk them down a hill or up a hill, and they can tell me they're going uphill or downhill. But your eyes will lie to you. And every player, I don't care how good of a golfer you are, we all get fooled. Sometimes I sit there and swear a putt's going to break one way, and it may break the other way. So the more I walk up to the hole, you see a lot of the aim point guys on tour, they'll stand on they'll straddle their line, intended line, and they'll kind of rock back and forth. I don't personally do that. I don't find that effective. For me personally, if I just walk up to the hole, I can feel it just by walking. And so, make sure that when you're doing this, that you're doing it in a way that's speedy. I don't want people to do it when it's their turn to putt. These are things that I do. As soon as I get up to the green, I try to walk up to the hole and then go to my ball, clean it, get my line, and then go through my routine and hit my putt. So, those are some things that will help you as well. And then the last thing I always tell people, pay attention to other people's putts. So when if I'm playing, if the three of us are playing golf and I'm on the green and I'm closer to the hole and Brian's farther away, when he hits his putt, I'm going to pay attention to what his ball is doing. I'm not going to be talking to Ted. I'm going to be watching Brian. So it's important that you watch balls on the green because a lot of times it will confirm what you see, but also you may see something and go, wow, his ball did something I didn't see there. So then I may go re-look at the putt again, by walking around the hole. That's a great way to do it. But I always try to read putts from the low areas. For me, I like to read putts from behind the ball. I cannot really read putts very well from behind the hole. I'd find that for whatever reason it doesn't fit my eye. So those are just some tips that I use. I think your feet, though, if you learn anything from this, what I just said, walking on the green is the best way to feel the putt more than anything.
Yeah, those are some excellent points. And, I think it's so right. If you look at the pros, obviously we don't always get the full benefit when we're watching it on television because obviously there's a lot of camera cutaways and so forth. But if you ever get the opportunity to go to a PGA or LPGA event and you watch the professionals, if you're able to get close enough to the green that you watch how they go through things and watch a couple of different players because obviously everybody's a little bit different, but there are a lot of similarities. You will see many of the things that, you just talked about, John. You'll see them doing those very same things, walking, looking at from different angles, walking up the, towards the hole and back again and trying to feel that slope and getting a better idea of whether it's going up or downhill. So Obviously, the more you practice that and the more you work at it, the more proficient you're going to be. But every once in a while, as you pointed out, there's a little stymie that gets thrown your way, and it breaks a way you maybe didn't expect. Before I turn things over to Brian for his question, one more thing I just want you to touch on a little bit, because this, again, kind of confuses a lot of people as well. Touch on very quickly, John, if you wouldn't mind, the grain of grass on the greens. A lot of people get confused by that. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Yes,
grain grows downhill. So if you watch golf on television and you see like especially in Florida, if you're watching like the spring when they hit the Florida swing, those cameras are up high. They're up there in the boot, up on top of the towers, and they're shooting down at the green from where the commentators are announcing from. And a lot of times you can see really dark green areas, and then you see really dull brown areas. If it's a dull brown area, then that grain is going away from you. If it's really dark and rich and green, then that grain is toward you. Well, if it's really dark, rich, and green, that means that's going uphill. And if it's really brown and dry and burned out looking, then that's going downhill. So on tour, those greens are cut like razor thin, and you can really, really see it, the discrepancies with that. But the simple thing is the grain is going to grow with the water, and water always goes downhill. And so the grain is going to go that way. And so if you're looking at greens, and if you're off of the green, sometimes you can be just off of the green. That's when you can really kind of see it a lot of times. You'll make your practice swing, and if you've got a little uphill chip, you can feel the grain kind of catching your club face. So grain reading is something now with all of these greens, it was a big deal back in the 50s and 60s when the greens weren't quite cut down as much as they are now, but it does affect, your putts. And so, but grain is just like water. It likes to go with downhill with gravity.
Yeah, and obviously if you're putting into the grain, if your putt is going in, that may slow the ball a little bit. Conversely, if you're putting down grain, it again, because you're going down hill, it's may be a little quicker. So you have to make those adjustments, and that's where it's always good to get on the practice green before you go and play your round, to just kind of get a sense of that, because not just to see the different shades of it, but also to understand how the ball is going to react in each of those situations, as opposed to just sort of plunking the ball down a few feet away and just hitting the same old putts. Try putts from different parts of the green and see how it reacts. You'll find that's going to give you a lot of information. Brian, I know you've had an extra moment or two of rest, so I've got a good one for you as well. And just sort of some basic drills. We're going to hit beginners, intermediate, and experienced, or even tour player. When you're as a professional coach and you're working with these three levels of players, how do the drills differ, or do they evolve as the player becomes more experienced? So, for instance, a drill that you may have for a beginning player may not be as appropriate for an intermediate player or even an experienced tour player. How do they differ? And maybe just give it a couple of examples, maybe one of each, that a drill you might do for a beginner, an intermediate, and an more experienced player as you're trying to help them improve their game. What's the difference, would you say?
Great question, Ted. So drills, working with beginners, let's start with beginners first. I think, getting the movement pattern in order, I think, is the first thing. So drills I would use would be more things in front of a mirror, maybe, where they can see their positioning of their body. Say we're working on the pivot, I'll have them stand in front of the mirror, cross their arms, and let them see how the body has to move, the upper body and the weight, and getting into a nice finished position. Intermediate and tour players already have that movement pattern. So that'd be something I would do with a beginner. And then as the player progresses, you want to reinforce the pattern. And that includes good balance and stuff. So that'd be something I would do. A lot of mirror work for beginners. And then, with intermediate and tour players, the ball striking increases at both levels. And I think it comes down to the player when I work with players that are scratch golfers or pros, what have you, you have to find out how they learn better and how they play better. Are they more creative or are they more technical? So you have to really find what works best for the player, and that could be a beginner, intermediate, or tour player, but find out what works best and then work along those lines. So say I have a scratch player or whatever, we work on different drills to curve the ball and change the trajectory. And, a beginning golfer doesn't have that ability yet, but so depending on the player, I would do something like that. I like to get creative with ball flight, hitting it high, low, left, right with different clubs for my really better players. Beginners, you're trying to get them to just get the club face and strike the ball and center hits on the club face and stuff. So different drills that come to mind, like in putting, like for beginners, like a ladder drill where I would separate the balls, maybe 3 feet apart and have them learn distance control that way, where if I was using that drill on an intermediate or a pro player, I would make the distance between the balls a lot further so they're getting different feels for yardages and stuff like that. So, but we all have our own assortment of drills we use, but it really comes down to not making the drill too hard for beginning golfers and not making it too easy for more advanced golfers. So there has to be some progression, I think, as the player starts out and improves their game. So offhand, there's a lot of other drills I use, but it would really depend on the level and skill of the player, Ted.
Yeah, those are, again, some excellent answers. And you're right, Brian, because for a beginning player, really what you're looking to do is to help them with consistency. Most beginning players are very inconsistent. Some learn quicker, obviously, than others. So you're wanting to keep the drills to help them become a more consistent player before you move on to more advanced drills or advanced lessons. And obviously with your more experienced scratch or tour players, they've already got the consistency. Now you're working on things, as you said, shot shaping, maybe adding an extra shot or two in the bag, maybe helping them hit a low driving ball that's going to help them handle wind conditions and things like that. So again, you're getting into a more advanced teaching and more advanced drills. But you touched on something I just want to emphasize again, and that is for the beginning golfers especially, you've got to keep the drills fairly simple early on, because if they become too challenging, then number one, as we all can attest to, they're not apt to work on things as effectively because it's cumbersome, it's difficult, it's not something that they're adapting to very easily, and you want it to be a progression. So you want them to be able to find drills and whatever it is that you're going to give them to work on in between lessons, that they can sort of feel like they're accomplishing something along the way, and then you can advance it as they progress throughout the process. Obviously, the more advanced players, they've already done a lot of these drills, and now what you're trying to do is really take their game to the next level. It's more about scoring as opposed to just consistency, which they've already done in that. So you hit it right on the mark, some great points, and as you said, there's a million different drills that you could input in there. I just want people to kind of have an understanding of how things evolve from beginning players right up through to the best players in the world. So great answer, Brian. Thank you. And John, we're going to talk about this one here. Rhythm and tempo is another one too. It's all part of the golf swing. We're touching on the golf swing here today. And how do we improve both? Because it's obviously two different areas that work together. What are your thoughts here? How do we effectively work on, or number one, how do we find our own rhythm and develop our own tempo in the golf swing? How can we sort of address both issues?
Well, this is a great question because, one of the first things that I do when I look at any person is I try to ask them questions, what they do for a living, try to get an idea and feel for them as a person. Because if I get someone who's real high energy, you get people who come up and they just start rapid firing, hitting balls. People who hit balls really fast usually have really quick swings, and their golf swings usually are short when they're quick, and that causes a lot of problems. I don't want someone's swing to be too quick or too slow. Other people may be, real slow and lethargic and stand over the ball too long, and obviously we don't want that either. So that's one thing right off the bat as a teacher is I try to figure out, how is a student wired? What makes them tick? And, do they talk fast? Do they walk fast? You can tell a lot by someone just by their mannerisms as far as their golf swing goes. And now as far as the actual X's and O's of fixing tempo, when I was at Grand Cypress, we learned that the actual time that it takes a club to go back into the ball, and I don't care whether you're hitting a putt, whether you're hitting a chip, pitch, bunker shot, full swing, is 1 second. So it's on average, if you were to take all the tour players' swings and time them from when their club is behind the ball to the top of their swing and back to the ball. This does not count the follow-through. We're only talking about the time back into the ball. It's 1 second. So the longer the swing, the faster the downswing, which makes up for the slower, longer backswing, but then the faster downswing. So the tour players have learned to create basically a pendulum where the club is naturally accelerating. That's why when you look at a tour player swing, it looks so effortless and it looks so easy because especially if you're talking about a really good golf swing. There are some swings out on tour, like a John Rahm is very fast, very quick. That's not a swing that I would try to emulate for any of my students or anyone out there. He's able to do that because he's a phenomenal athlete and he's obviously been playing golf for a long time and he's very strong. So when I do this, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use a metronome, and you can just download. I used to have a metronome. I used it for years. It finally wore out, and now I just download it on. You can download it on your phone and set your metronome to 1 second. And if you can go back into the ball in that 1 second, it gives you a nice rhythm and a nice beat. And start out with putting. So, put yourself 3 feet from the hole and just go back. And I just have my students go 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I have them hit chip shots. And then I have them hit pitch shots. And then go into the full swing. And they start getting that rhythm, and they start realizing, wow, my driver is the same time back into the ball as it was when I was putting. This takes, some time to get used to, so I would start out with this in the short game. But working on your short game is really a great way to work on your tempo. If you're trying to work on your tempo with a driver, you're doing it the wrong way. You're going to the fastest, most explosive swing that you have in the bag. Why not start out with the smaller swings and get the tempo first and then work your way up to the driver? So a lot of I'm sure there's a lot of other drills out there, but tempo is very important. And how you are going to load the club, and basically, you look at the time of the swing back into the ball, and then you look at the speed that you're doing it. So you're looking at the tempo and then the rhythm of your golf swing.
Yeah, you raised some really interesting. Great job, thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
You raised some interesting points. Excuse me. For a lot of players, you really, as a coach, you really have to look at the player and how they act, not just over the ball, but how they act otherwise. So again, you can even watch people as they walk up to the lesson tee. If they sort of have a quick pace, some are a little bit slower, methodical. That usually is a pretty good. Most people, when you walk, if you watch people walk, that it gives you a pretty good idea of their body rhythm. Again, you see a very slow. Freddie Couples comes to mind. He was always kind of very slow, like he was just walking in the park. And conversely, his golf swing. But yet he was able to generate a lot of power and get great distance. Ernie Els is another one. People, you can't start to mix things up. You can make certain adjustments, but you can't take away somebody's natural body rhythm and try to force them to be, too fast, or conversely, if they're, faster, then try to slow them down too much, because then it takes them out of their natural body rhythm. But yeah, a lot of the points you mentioned, metronome's a great tool to use, and now with all the apps and so forth, it's very easy to download that. Brian, everybody wants to get some extra distance. Obviously, that involves increasing power. Generating, faster clubhead speed. And I know there's a lot of different things, factors, but I want you to touch on what the role of the lower body is, since obviously we're connecting to the ground. Obviously, the upper body has a function as well, but what's the role of the lower body? How do we, what are things that we can do to help increase the power? Obviously, this sort of works together with our tempo and timing, but what's the role, first off, of the lower body in helping to increase power? Because we all want to get those extra distance. Give us some thoughts here.
Ted, great question. Gaining more distance has kind of been the thing the last couple of years in golf. The first thing that comes to mind with the lower body is get stronger. If our legs are stronger, they're going to produce more power when we start to move in the golf swing. That'd be number one. For anybody listening, hit the gym. That would be number one, and definitely get a trainer that can help you with golf-specific exercises. But anybody that can get stronger can increase their club head speed. That'd be number one. Number two, how the legs. We have to load the backswing, so your weight has to shift into your right leg for a righty golfer. So having mobility in your hips to be able to move your body and load up that right side is going to help get the weight to the left side come down. Now, I see a lot of players that don't transfer their weight through their legs and they leave it back on the right side and they fall away from it. That's going to affect the low point and you're not going to get as much power. So a good drill would be like a step drill where you're swinging back, loading up your right leg, and then stepping forward into your left leg and feeling the weight transfer between your legs. It's very important, especially if you want to hit the ball further. But getting stronger legs, walking and stuff will definitely add speed to the golf swing. And I think the lower body adds also some stability. Grabbing the ground with your feet and using your feet and will add more speed to the swing. And when you're addressing the ball with a driver, don't get staticky at address. I see the longest hitters, they're always moving their feet, they're always moving their hands before the takeaway. If you slow everything down, I don't think your body generates as much speed. So that's another thing I look for. But it's all tied together, Ted. We need the lower body to do their thing. Our core strength is important, and the upper body is important. You need all three motors for maximum power. And then I think the third thing is you have to work on moving faster. Whether you're swinging speeds or something, you've got to condition your body to move faster so it can produce more power and more energy as you swing the golf club. So those are some of the ideas, and there's a lot of technology out there now to help with laterals, rotaries, and stuff like that in the golf swing. See what your main power source is, and for some people it might not be the lower body. They might have to use their upper body more and get the arm swinging faster. So again, getting back to working with a PGA professional or your coach, they'll be able to identify your main power source in your body. It might not just be the legs for some people, but identify that and then start working on it and definitely get stronger. I'd start right there, Ted.
Yeah, some great answers. And I just want to emphasize on something that you said right at the beginning. There's golf-specific exercises out there, and you want to get to somebody that's certified in golf fitness. Particularly, you want to speak to them, and if your particular coach or swing coach is not certified in that area, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to know somebody that they can bring in and help you with that. So you want to make sure you do that. I'm all for, and I agree with you. I mean, you need to increase the lower body strength, and particularly in your legs. If you got weak, wobbly legs, because that's your base. That's what you're anchoring into the ground, if you will. And if that's weak and not got the right flex, what you want to do, though, first and foremost is you want to make sure that before you do anything, that you have a good, honest conversation with your coach, with your pro, and say, look, I may have some physical challenges. Always a good idea to consult with a physician. Make sure that some of the things that they may be asking you to do that you're actually able to do. If you're dealing with some more long-term issues, you want to make sure you do that. But yeah, those are some great points. Get with a trainer that specializes in golf fitness, because it is different than maybe some of your other fitness programs out there. And you don't need to get into powerlifting and all that, swing sticks, speed sticks. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Again, that's a conversation you can have with your coach. We just got a few minutes left. Great. You guys did a great job in buzzing through these questions tonight and really gave some great answers. I'm just going to give you guys this one question and just, maybe take a moment or two. And what's the most challenging, John, I'm obviously coming to you first, then Brian. What's most challenging for you as a teacher professional / coach with your job? And I don't mean specifically where you are or anything like that, but I mean just as a coach, what challenges? What is some of the challenges that you are faced with day to day that obviously you enjoy that keeps you coming back?
Well, there's challenges that keep me coming back, and there's challenges that frustrate me, just like any human being. We deal with different things. The thing about, Brian can probably attest to this, but our job is based on FaceTime. I mean, I'm really not making money unless I'm standing in front of someone and teaching them. And so when you're dealing with that, a lot of times you're dealing with students who maybe, a lot of times with the younger, I'm talking more about the younger kids and the younger generation that you have right now. A lot of times I've noticed an attitude about the young kids and how they learn. And it's a lot different than it was when I was a kid and when I was, or even 10 years ago. There's a lot of distractions. There's cell phones and there's all these things that are going on. And, when you're trying to gather someone's attention and try to make them have those changes, if they don't want to be there, like if they want to be playing with their friends or playing video games or doing things like that, sometimes kids are in there because their parents want them to do it. And if they don't want to be there, that's a challenge that, because I want to make the game fun and I want them to have a good time. But let's face it, this is a difficult game. You can't just halfway do golf. You have to, if you're going to do it and do it well, you have to put some time into it. So getting people to commit to not just taking the lessons, that's only part of it, but putting in the time outside of the lessons, to me, that's the challenging part of, it's always been a challenge for every instructor, but now with today's technology and with all the things that are going on in this world, people are just so scheduled out. Like, I get kids that come in and they're coming right off they come from a tennis lesson and then they're going to a golf lesson and then they're going to swimming right after that. And so it's really hard to, be good at anything. So to me, that's the challenging part, as a teacher, is trying to motivate people because, when I was a kid, golf was like the most important sport to me in the world. But other kids may not have that, and that's okay. They don't have to golf doesn't have to be the same passion that it is for me. But trying to get them to focus during that 30-minute or hour-long lesson, to me, is something I think all of the instructors, probably can relate to. But the game itself, the challenge is, the challenge that brings me back more than anything is I've been playing more golf, and I love the game. And I've been playing tournament golf. I played more tournament golf this year than I've probably played in the last 4 or 5 years. And what I found is it's been a great experience because the whole reason I got into the game of golf is because I love the game. And when I play in tournament golf, I have to prepare like I want my students to prepare. I get nervous on the first tee like my students do. So I can empathize with them when they're telling me these things about why they three-putt, or why they have trouble, with anxiety on the course or struggles or whatever it is they're dealing with. And so I think that challenge is what will always bring me back to the game. And we all have our ups and downs with the game, but it's such a great game, and I hope everyone out there always remembers what a blessing it is to play this great game.
I couldn't agree more. And Brian, just very quickly, what sort of presents a challenge for you? I'm sure you probably concur a lot with what John just said, but what are some of the challenges that sort of keep you coming back?
Man, for me, what keeps me coming back is, just that the challenge of dealing with your emotions during a round of golf. And, during a round of golf, the highs and lows and, hitting shots and controlling your emotions and, and you're out there by yourself in golf. And that's one of the challenges, that there's nobody else to fall back on. And a lot of the younger generation playing the game, they've got to learn to bounce back. For me, the challenge is always bouncing back and knowing that the game's hard and I'm going to have bad days, but I can't let it get to me. And you have to bounce back. And the challenge is, man, I'm going to get over that and I'm going to go play a good round. So it's a never-ending journey we're on here, Ted. And John, you hit so many great key points, but I think one of the challenges that we face as teachers is having all this information out there now on YouTube and Instagram that our students are looking at this stuff every day. And it's a challenge because most of that stuff hurts them more than helps them. So then they come to us and then we get them back on the right track. And the challenge is, can they stay off of that long enough to make some improvement? I find that a big challenge now teaching in 2024 than I did, say, 20 years ago. And we didn't have all that. So that's a challenge. And the other thing is learning patience. Golf to get good at golf takes time. And teaching juniors, I'll say, bring me a kid that's 7 years old, but it's going to take 10 years to get them to be a good golfer. And they want that when they're 8 and 9. It's not going to happen. It takes time. So that's a challenge. Learning patience
right.
in this game.
You touched on some great points there, Brian. You guys are exactly right. Unfortunately, the attention span is a lot different now than what it was 20, 30 years ago, when we were sort of starting out in this business, and where it is now. And there's a lot of obstacles that we have to overcome as teachers to be able to help them. It's not just about teaching anymore. It's about filtering through a lot of the information that they're getting exposed to. Is it really helping? Is it coming from reliable sources? And unfortunately, many pros are facing the same problem where they're spending more time, sifting through, all of this other information when they could be, serving a better, time could be better served elsewhere. And the timing issue is a big one as well. They've got so many other activities. You really have to, if you want to be good at this game, and again, I'm not saying, we all probably played a lot of sports growing up in that, but golf happened to be our passion, and that's why we pursued it. But I think if you want to be better at this game, you have to make a decision. Okay, doesn't mean I can't swim and doesn't mean I can't do some other things, but if I really want to become a better golfer, this has to sort of be at the top. The others can be more recreational and fun, but if I really want to be a much better player and make it last, I've got to put the time in. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're just going to struggle for many, many years. All right, John, very quickly, how can the folks reach out? Thank you, first off, for joining me tonight in Coach's Corner. As always, it's a pleasure. How can the folks reach out? And if you want to give a quick plug where they can order your books.
Well, Ted, thanks again for having us on the show tonight. And Brian, I really enjoy being on with you. As always with you, I always learn something every time I'm on with you. So thank you as well. For the listeners out there, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website, deckergolf.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. My book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, was just released in July, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But if you want an autographed copy, feel free to go on my website, again, deckergolf.com, and that information is on there or is available on there to get an autographed copy, and I'd be glad to ship one to you. And if you're looking for speaking engagements, I'd love to come to your community. I can speak at your church, your local like Kiwanis Club or Lions Club or anything like that, or at your golf course. And I can do instruction as well, like the chipping short game or something like that, and then do a book signing. So that's something that I've been trying to get going as well. But once again, Ted, thank you again for having us on, and hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving coming up.
Yeah, you too as well, John. Brian, go ahead. How can the folks, if they want to reach out to you, the best way they can do that?
Okay, best way to reach me is just give us a call at Trump National in Bedminster, New Jersey. I'm teach year-round there. My cell is 908-531-3637. That's a great way to reach out to me also. I'm going to give John a little plug for everybody listening. I read his book. It's a fabulous book, and it was a great read, and I learned so much from being on the show here with John. And Ted, you guys are great, and wish you all a happy Thanksgiving also. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you as always, and I look forward to having you next time on the Coach's Corner panel. But have a great weekend, and happy Thanksgiving to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right. That was John Decker and Brian Dobby joining us on the Coach's Corner panel. We're going to take a very quick break, and then I'll be back with tonight's featured guest, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to golf, there are two topics that consistently come up: more distance and more energy. But hey, what if you could achieve both? Introducing Victory's carbon fiber insoles, the revolutionary performance insoles designed specifically to help golfers hit longer. Using patented carbon fiber technology, VKs do more than support your feet. Many golfers see a 1 to 2 mile per hour increase in club head speed just by adding Victory insoles to their shoes. So if you want to up your game and feel better after a long day on the course, choose Victory's carbon fiber insoles. Visit Victory.com, that's VKTRY.com, and use code GT20 for 20% off today. This offer is exclusive for listeners of this podcast. Again, visit Victory.com and use code GT20 for 20% off. Order today to start feeling the difference on your next round.
The following ad is sponsored by Golf Tips Magazine.
Are you tired of being short off the tee? And what about those 3 putts? Forget about it. It's time you got serious about your game. Golf Tips, the most in-depth magazine in the industry. For over 30 years, Golf Tips has delivered expert content such as the latest golf instruction from America's top pros, simple to follow practice and game improvement drills, fitness and mental game tips, equipment, training aids, accessory and apparel reviews, golf destinations and travel tips for every budget, and so much more. Don't miss a single issue. Go to golftipsmag.com and subscribe today.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Golf Talk Live, and I'm excited to be joined once again by tonight's special guest, Paul Guzman. He is the VP of Marketing and Distribution at BATCADDY. He joined BATCADDY first as Manager of Customer Service and Logistics on the West Coast in April of 2018 and was promoted to Managing Director in West Coast in June of 2018. In August 2020, he took on the additional role of managing the corporate marketing and distribution function. Over the last 25 years, he has worked in every facet of sales and marketing service, including 12 years as general manager in the home services and plumbing industry, where he was involved directly with customers on a daily basis. So please welcome the VP of Marketing Distribution of BATCADDY, Paul Guzman. Paul, welcome back to Golf Talk Live.
Good to be back, Ted. Thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Let's just, and I say welcome back because you were actually on the show. I believe it was actually July of 2022. It's been a couple of years now, but glad to have you back. And I know we're going to talk about the new Evo 2. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But just for those that maybe aren't as familiar with BATCADDY, maybe you could just give us just a little bit of overview of the company and sort of when it came into the golfing market.
Absolutely. So we are actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. We were founded in 2004, and what we brought and popularized in the United States were electric-powered push carts to carry your golf bags around the course and not have to do that yourself or push or pull your cart. And we've been advancing that movement and popularizing walking golf without having to carry for those decades, and really are passionate about people walking the course, being able to play golf the way that it was intended, and to be able to play the best golf that you can when you're golfing, which we believe doesn't mean not having to carry your bag at the same time and push or pull a cart. So that's what we're really, really focused on over the last decade, really taking customer feedback and finding out what are the best ways to do that. What do people really want in an electric-powered push cart? What are the best features? What makes it the easiest for them to use and to play their game?
Fantastic. And for your 20th anniversary, are you guys doing anything special to celebrate?
Well, we have our 20th anniversary sale, Black Friday sale going on. We're doing some bigger discounts than what we probably would have usually done. Really, that's the big push now as we're into November, and it seems like Black Friday gets a little earlier every single year, but here we are.
Right. Yeah. Listen, not to get off topic, but I saw somebody 2 days before Halloween had their Christmas decorations up. And I thought, you got to be kidding. Halloween wasn't even over yet. So, yeah, I hear you. It just seems every year, like the year, I don't know if it's an age thing for me or not, but it just seems like the years are shrinking faster and faster, and you just get one holiday over and the next one's already right around the corner. So, but that's great. It's great that you're going to give, and we'll touch on a little bit more, a little bit later on the broadcast, again, about some of the Black Friday specials that you might have going on that are of special note. So you mentioned something, and I want you to talk a little bit about this, because I've played golf. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've mentioned this on air before, so it's no secret. But I'm 60 now. I just turned 60 this past March, so I'm getting a little long in the tooth, as they say. But I've been playing golf since I was probably a little before 7, but 7 was when I really took an interest. My father took me out, and I always loved walking the golf courses. And again, I'm not trying to knock the guys that are, pushing the other carts and things like that, but, I always enjoyed the walk. To me, that was the most fun. My friends and I, we always walked the golf courses. We never hopped on the power carts and things like that until much later when, it was sort of really pushed. You guys are really, BATCADDY is really a champion of walking golf. What is it about that people need to understand? Why are you guys such a champion of? I mean, obviously your product works hand in hand with it, but why are you guys really wanting to promote getting back to sort of the tradition of the game? What is it about that you guys really capitalize on?
I think for me, as you mentioned, I came from the home services industry, golf. I grew up playing golf. Some of my earliest memories with my dad are walking the course with my dad and carrying his bag around. They had us.
Me too. I did that too. So
right?
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, that's how I learned to play. Was walking. No one ever even talked about taking a cart or anything. That was
right.
That wasn't part of the conversation. And as I grew up and I played more, it just always felt better to me. From a personal standpoint, the opportunity to come work for BATCADDY really aligned with, not only am I passionate about golf, so to get into the industry was a really great opportunity for me, but the walking aspect and what BATCADDY was pushing as far as walking the course also aligned with, my values as a golfer. And I've always found, that personally I play better when I walk. I have time on the course. I can feel the course. I have a better rhythm. Obviously, the health benefits of just walking a few miles versus riding in the cart are there for anybody who chooses to walk. But when you're, looking at saving strokes on your game, we're always looking for different tips and tricks and how to do those things. Just walking saves me a couple shots because of how in tune I am with my game versus jumping in the cart and jumping out of a cart and jumping in a cart and jumping out of a cart. So there's really some game improvement, I think, that comes from just walking the course, as well as the added benefit of not having to carry a bag, right? That's the kind of the add-on, that having an electric push cart is I'm not using my shoulder muscles to push a cart up and down hills or pull it. I'm not carrying a 20-pound bag on my shoulders for the whole time, so I'm able to golf better. right? Like for me, it was kind of one of those aha moments when I discovered BATCADDY and one of those things, and it really made sense because when we watch golf on TV, there's not a pro golfer out there carrying their own bags, right? They don't do that, but, right? They play better golf when they don't have to carry their 60-pound bag, right? So I think those are the big pieces, and just, those memories that we have. I'm going to jump back to that real quick because I have been able to replicate that with my kids, and have my kids out on a early Sunday morning and watching the fog clear and walking down the course and listening to the birds and having an experience out there that to me is very different than riding around in a cart with my son. Is two very different scenarios when I'm out there. I like the walk with them. It's really nice.
Yeah, and you raise a couple of really interesting issues. And again, I'm not, I know you're not either. We're not knocking, the driving carts and things like that. They serve a purpose as well. But I think for those that maybe are a little bit older and maybe don't have the same mobility, I mean, that might be the thing that I found. You touched on a really interesting point is, besides really enjoying the journey a little bit more, but I also find that it gives me an opportunity to prepare myself. One of the things I hate now about being, in a golf cart and driving around is, I hit my ball and, within a minute I'm up to where I hit, and I don't feel like I have a chance to really absorb what's happened and really, because you're kind of ushered along pretty quick. Kind of takes away the fun and the enjoyment of it. I like to just kind of relax. That was my friends and I did, and we played at a pretty good pace. We didn't really hold up any groups, and most people didn't either. And I know there's a lot more people golfing, and I understand the method of it, but for me, I find it's not as enjoyable when you've got to drive around all the time because you don't have time to really, in between shots, to really think about, okay, what am I going to do? What am I faced with here, and so forth. You're kind of feeling rushed. So, and you touched on the pros as well. I mean, this kind of gives you a feeling, hey, walk like the pros. They're doing it, and obviously they're doing it for a different reason, but there's so many health benefits, and I think people would actually enjoy the game more, and I think that's why you're seeing a sort of – so when you look at the market, when you guys – because I know that you guys do market research and things like that, are you seeing a trend over the last, few years where more and more people are starting to do what you're doing, and that's getting out and walking and trying to, whenever possible. I mean, I know some situations where maybe some of the courses prohibit that, but I think more and more of them are starting to relax that. Are you seeing that trend as well?
Yes, there's definitely more people walking than before. We had the huge influx of golfers in 2020 with the pandemic year, with golf as one of the only recreational places to be able to go for a little while. And so we saw a huge influx of people new to the game who were open, say maybe didn't have there's definitely in the past have been some prejudices against our product in a sense, right? For the people who, you have the guys who carry their bags and the people who carry their bags or have their push carts would almost regarded our product as lazy because you didn't have to do the work to carry it. Right. And then we have the people who are out in the carts that don't want to get out of the carts. It's kind of a two-pronged piece. And with some pretty, deep set ideas around how it should be done. That's been one of the major pushes in our industry to educate people around the benefits of why a product like ours is really beneficial, right? And so when you see those new golfers come in without kind of any of those preconceived ideas, it's really opened up a younger market for us too, around people who are into technology. Say that the newer generation is a little more into the golf tech, which we fall into that category and see it as a cool product, right, as opposed to something for people who can't carry a bag anymore. And so we've made some inroads there, but it's been really nice to see kind of it blossom, especially over the 4 years, and really make a significant impact and see people enjoy it and appreciate the product for what it can really do for them out on the course.
And you again raised another interesting observation as well, is because obviously the pandemic, golf saw a really big uptick in newcomers to the game, many who had never played before. So obviously they didn't have some of the preconceived notions, ideas, whatever you want to call it, built in. They had never played the game, so many of them didn't even know how to play the game. Are you finding, though, that the younger generation, being more health conscious on average, that they're kind of pushing for, hey, I really want to get out and walk. They're more not, and I don't mean fitness. When I say fitness, that they're out there busting weights and things like that, but I mean that they're more wanting to have a more relaxed experience and not, feel like they have to drive around all the time. Are you seeing that with this newer generation more so?
Yeah, from the people I've been able to talk to who are out there that have bought BATCADDYs, the experience has been about really kind of a holistic, all-inclusive, I'd say it's all-encompassing of like the whole experience, right? It's the golf, being able to play the game. It's the experience of walking on the course. There's one thing to be said too, that seeing a golf course, I think, for how the architects designed them as well. Like, you don't get that when you're in a cart driving over to the path and then back, and you don't get to see the visuals the way that they were laid out by the course designers either, which I think is something that's really cool about experiencing different golf courses. But that, and the fact that they also can walk and it's a healthy activity in the same breath, is just a really good way for them to have 4 hours of a healthy lifestyle, and to include that into everything else that they do. Are you seeing products such as yours as a general rule? Is this something that really took, and the reason why I asked this is because I remember, decades ago in Japan, for instance, seeing a lot of people, more walking as opposed to driving around the carts. And then, of course, you saw different items similar doing that. Is that sort of what's happening here in the U.S., is that they're recognizing the value of having a cart like yours as opposed to, again, hopping on the drive cart? Is this something that the U.S. has now really picked up on, do you think? And obviously you guys being in the forefront of your market. I would say that we're still in the beginning stages of real acceptance between us and our competitors, and the foothold that we have now is pretty substantial. When the pandemic came, basically anything that we could get out to people was sold. we didn't have anything in the warehouse basically that whole time. Everything that came in went out right away because everybody wanted everything. And so to have a really nice push like that and get a foothold on the market, when you talk about overseas and especially in places like Japan or Europe, but Europe especially, where the game is pretty cart-less, right? Like the courses over there, they're walking courses. Electric power carts are very popular over there, as opposed to here, where a lot of the golf courses, as they were designed through the last few decades and everything too, were designed for driving carts, right? Especially in the South retirement areas and stuff, and places like that. That was more of the focus. So walking wasn't necessarily a focus for us as United States golfers. Whereas now, with all those different benefits and the people coming in, the door is opening more, and like I said, we're seeing a broader acceptance of the product across all age groups, which is really neat to see for us. It was really, before, had been limited, or not limited, but most popular among older golfers who had walked and were at the point where they didn't want to carry anymore, right? So we gave them an option to be able to keep walking and not have to carry a bag. Whereas now it's just it's becoming a golf product. Right, it's becoming something when we go to the annual PGA trade show, and we start to see this as a common product, and it's not. People used to come up to us when I first started going to the show 6 years ago and asking, "What's that? Like, what is that thing? What does it do?" I don't get that. I don't get that question anymore. The question now is, "What do you guys have new for this year?" Like, what's coming out this year? What are we going to have? So the product itself, as far as the general knowledge of what it is and what it does, has greatly increased over the last 4 or 5 years. And so now it's just being able to reach those people who are interested and talk to them and educate, and give them the opportunity to make that purchase and put it into their golf equipment fleet.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great segue into the Evo 2. So this is a new to your line. I mean, you have other products. We could touch on those a little bit in a little bit, but I want to start things off and focus really on this is a new addition to your line, BATCADDY's Evo 2. And I know it's pre-order right now, so people can pre-order it, and then I believe you're going to be obviously available for pre-sales rather, and you'll be begin shipping around the 25th of this month. Give or take. So tell us a little bit about this. What's new and different about Evo 2 compared to maybe what some of the previous items that you've had in your lineup?
Sure. So the X Series has been our staple for a long time, kind of what we launched with way back when, and it's seen its iterations and model upgrades. And over the last, with the pandemic coming out, we kind of pushed back our production schedule a little bit. But what we've really been looking at for the Evo line was customer feedback on what we were doing well, what needed improvement, what could we do better to better serve the golfers that had our product. What were the important pieces? Because there's different lines of thought out there as far as what's important on a cart, right? Whether it's GPS or a little bit bigger, heavier motor. What we learned in our talking to our customers and our feedback, and I like to say that, there's a lot out there around, you hear a lot of taglines now that things are designed through artificial intelligence, right? We like to say that we designed the Evo line with real intelligence, which is our customers, right? With customer intelligence is how we got it designed. And so the consistent feedback that we heard was lighter, more compact, and easy to use. Our lineup is already one of the lightest in the industry just across the board, but what we went with the Evo was to get it as light as we possibly could, as compact as possible, still really simple to use, but with the Evo 2 at a price point that was competitive. Because you can get really light with materials like carbon fiber, titanium. There's really, really light carts out there, but those cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and that's not where we wanted to be. We've always been one of the price leaders in the category as well, and trying to keep that door open for golfers to be able to afford our product at the different levels that we have. So with the Evo 2, we were able to do that. With its battery, it's around 25 pounds, which is one of the lightest on the market. A lot of our competitors sit in the 35 to 38 to 40 pound range, which makes a big difference when you're throwing it in and out of your trunk. And also with the Evo 2, it packs down and folds up to less than 3 inches high. So you can pop it in the bag and throw it behind your car seat. It doesn't even have to take up all the room in the trunk anymore. And we kept that price point. Retail is $1,500 right now, which is right in that spot where, we found it to be really competitive out there. And so that, and the fact that it's still really easy to use between the remote control, and you can also use it as a manual cart if you want. And you can also use it as a walk along where it's powered, but you do the steering with the handle. So it has 3 different operational modes. It's proven really reliable. The technology that we have in there is great. It's just a really, really good product that's designed to meet the needs of our golfers out there and what they want.
Yeah, and we're going to give you, the listeners, the website, and obviously they can get more information. I'm going to wait a little bit, though, until after we're done, or towards the end when we're done, only because I don't want people, leaving the show and searching everything through. So we'll give them a chance to really, I try to do that, and people say, well, let's give out the website, and I'm certainly happy to do that. It's BATCADDY.com, by the way. But I like people to get a chance to really listen to the program. Then we give them that information, and they can go when it's fresh in their mind, and they can actually go and do a little deeper dive into everything and that. But there's some great videos on obviously all of your products on there, but particularly on the Evo 2. there's a video available as well as many angles. And I like the fact that it is collapsible and folds up into, like you said, basically about 3 inches high and in around that 25-pound mark, which is, reasonable. Most people can easily lift that and get that into, trunk or behind a seat or what have you. So I think that's great. And so you've made it into using some lighter, alloy, and other products to reduce that weight. What are some of the features of it? To give us just a sort of a quick rundown of what some of the features of the Evo 2 are. You talk about the remote, and you talk about sort of the intelligence of it. So how does it work? So how does it, if somebody's unpacking it, they're setting it up and getting it ready to go, what is it doing from a consumer standpoint? How is it helping their their enjoyment of the game?
Well, I think one of the cool things with electric caddies is, especially when you first get them, I mean, it's really a toy kind of, right? Like you get it, you put your bag on there and you start driving it around and you're showing it off for your friends, right? And you're driving it out in front and swerving it around and doing all this, then getting used to it and figuring it out, which is great. But then the whole point, after the newness wears off, right, and the novelty wears off of having this product, is that you don't want to think about it, right? You just want it to do what it's supposed to do so that you can play golf, right? Because if it's in the way, if it's making noise, if it's it's going to take away from your golf game, which is the exact opposite of the purpose of the product. So again, going back to, it's really simple to use. The remote control, it's fully directional, so you can go forwards, backwards, left, right. It has 4 preset speeds that you can set if you want to adjust to your specific walking speed, or you can cycle up and down through the speeds. One of the nice things it has is a downhill speed control, so that whatever speed it gets set at, even going downhill, it's going to maintain that speed so you don't have a runaway caddy. And one of the big additions that that our X series does not have, but that we have on the Evo, is the auto tracking feature. So internally, the caddy knows what straight is, and even if you go up on a side hill, it's going to detect whether that caddy wants to drift or not, and auto correct and keep that caddy going straight across any undulations or anything like that. So that's a nice feature, again, to not have to worry about where's my caddy going to go if I'm not paying exact attention to it, right? Or I have to keep pushing buttons to keep it going straight, which can be pretty frustrating. That feature also integrates with the geometries that we built into this caddy as far as anti-tip. I always say that with the caveat of like physics are still physics, and if it's on a steep side hill with a bag on it, like it's not impossible to tip over. Not impossible to tip over, but the geometries that we built it with and that auto correction feature work in sync to help keep the bag upright as much as possible, even under difficult circumstances. It's the most stable caddy that we've ever produced. It's really quiet, so you don't have a big noise in the background that reminds you that it's there. It's just a really well built. Those are the really main pieces of how it functions out there to keep it doing its job without being in the way.
Let me ask you about the power source. How is that? I'm assuming, is it a lithium battery? Is that correct? And if so, I'm assuming obviously it has to be charged at some point. Typically, from when you first get it, is it coming charged when you're getting it, or their first charge is a certain time, and then after that it's a little quicker? Give us a little idea of how that all works.
Right on. So it is a lithium battery. It's an advanced lithium technology, though, so it's not the same lithium-ion battery that's, say, in your phone. That allows us to keep it lighter and last a little bit longer and charge a little bit faster. So they usually ship anywhere from a third to half charged. It's the safest way to ship a lithium battery. And so we recommend charging before your first use. And a fully charged battery will get you 36 holes, 2 rounds before you have to charge it again. And then the charging time from a fully depleted battery would be 3 to 5 hours, just depending on the power source.
That's not bad at all. That's actually really good. And obviously, in a rare case, if you've kind of misstepped a little bit and you played a little bit more than you thought you did, and the battery runs down, obviously, you can manually move it if you had to. So it's not like it's locked in place or what have you until you can get it back home and get it charged back on. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. The Caddy itself is set up even to operate as a regular push cart. It has a true freewheel mode where you're able to disengage the wheels from the actual motors themselves. The battery itself only weighs 3 pounds. So if something like that were to ever happen, like I said, at 25 pounds, there's actually some just regular push carts, non-motorized out there that are pretty heavy that get into the teens. So you can make it back if you want, or if you had a day where you forgot your battery, right, or something else happened, you could use it as a regular push cart for the round, and it would be fine.
And that's important too, really, when you think about it. I mean, all joking aside, I mean, if you're in a situation, and listen, let's be honest, we all forget sometimes things. And you get out and you thought, okay, I charged it up, and maybe you forgot to, and here you're at the golf course, and here you go, and then maybe you get to hole 14, and all of a sudden you'd already played 18 earlier in the week, and now you're playing another round and thinking you've got a fully charged cart. I know you can monitor it in that, but sometimes people just don't pay attention. So it's good to know that it's not locking in place, and now you're in a situation where you've got to do something else. And obviously there's some other accessories that can be added on as well. I noticed in your collection you guys have an accessory for like a cell phone. So if you want to do GPS and things like that, those are some accessories that can be purchased as well that can clip on very easily, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it comes standard with a scorecard holder, an umbrella holder, and a cup holder. Then optional are the GPS holders or your GPS, your phone, right, at this point in time.
Right.
And then also we have like cooler and accessory bags. One of the most popular accessories we have is the seat that connects on it so that you can have a place to sit down for a minute if you want while you're waiting in between shots, or you got a group in front of you. So we've got the full complement of basically anything that you could need for it. Rain covers, the travel cases, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I noticed from looking at some of the, I looked at the website earlier, some of the earlier models had a slightly larger battery. So obviously they've scaled that down a little bit as technology advances and things like that. Things are getting lighter and lighter and more compact and easy to use. So that's fantastic. Now let's talk a little bit about, as you mentioned earlier, Black Friday's coming up. What are some of the specials? Let's start with the Evo. What are you guys doing special for those that maybe want to pre-order? I know they're going to get all the information on the website later, but if you want to touch on some of that for some of the listeners, what are some of the specials coming up for Black Friday?
Absolutely. So the Evo 2 during the Black Friday sale is $200 off. And we're also shipping it with a complimentary seat and GPS holder in addition to the scorecard holder, umbrella holder, and cup holder that come with it. So we've got a nice little Black Friday package going with that caddy to incentivize your game a little bit. We're giving you all the most popular stuff with it, and giving you a couple $100 off to get in the game.
Yeah, and that means a lot too. People look at that, and everybody likes to get a little extra special deal. So I think that's fantastic, and that is very well priced. Now you're looking at, as you said, it's about $1,500, $1,499.95. So you're looking at $200 off with the additional items that you're adding. You're now looking at $1,299.95. So you're looking at basically a nice $200 discount plus some extra accessories that are being added up front. And then you're getting it shipped here fairly quickly, so and ready to go. Mm-hmm. What has been some of the? You mentioned you guys obviously communicate with your customers, and that. What are they typically looking for when now that this product's been out there for a while? You've been at the PGA show, as you mentioned. What are they looking for? What are some of the most common requests that you're hearing?
Well, after with the Evo and kind of answering a lot of those the requests like we had talked about lighter and more compact,
right?
Which we've really pushed the envelope on with the Evo. Is one of the other common requests that we get were colors and personalization. So across the X series, which is still also available, and I bring that up also as a point because that obviously we have the Evo, which sits at one end of our product lineup, and then we have the X series, which kind of fills in some of the places from our entry level caddies up to the Evo, where we have personalization available. We have several colors. We're up to 8 colors now that are available outside of our standard black, silver, and white caddies. You can get red or blue or green. You can get colored wheels, so you can express yourself a little bit out on the course as well, which is, they said, something that people had asked for. And also the other thing is the affordability, right? Our X series, we have our X3 remote, which is priced at $750. So you can get into the electric push cart game for a lot less than $1,500 if you want to dip your toes. And you mentioned the batteries. We still offer a sealed lead acid battery with that cart. It has actual battery options, so you can decide which battery you want to go with. But the sealed lead acid battery is one of those bigger, older, heavier batteries. But it's $200 less than a lithium battery because they're expensive. Right. So we offer the option to people to maybe, get their feet wet a little bit, try out the product at a lower price point, and then with the X series, they can upgrade batteries at any time. So say they love it but don't love the 25-pound SLA battery. Well, they can upgrade to a 7-pound lithium battery that works with the cart that they have, and they don't have to upgrade their entire caddy to be able to do that. So that interchangeability also is one of the things that our customers have asked for and talked about, and appreciate that we have those options as well across the X series.
I want to bring something to the listeners' attention that I think is really very generous on your part as a company, and that is you guys offer a trade-in program. Which I found very interesting. I mean, I know there's a lot of things. There's obviously terms apply and that, and people have to go to the website to get all the particulars. But what I really liked and what had caught my eye was you make it very, very easy for people that want to trade in. They can trade in an old, rusty, powered, non-power electric cart, any manufacturer, maker, model, and obviously they can get as little as $25 or upwards of a $100 trade-in. Off their old, non-powered or powered push cart. And again, it doesn't have to be a BATCADDY product; it can be somebody else's. So I like that because it gives them an opportunity to say, "Hey, this thing's past its prime, and I really like what BATCADDY's offering here, and I'm going to get a little extra, discount here." So, and that's really available on all of your products, including. If you're looking at buying one of the new Evos, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's been a great program that we put in place. It's really sparked some interest. Obviously, for us, it's beneficial regardless of the manufacturer of the cart that the customer currently has to be able to take that in and have them with a new BATCADDY out on the course. But it's been really popular. It's applicable across all models. It's also stackable on top of sales, so it's not like if you're taking advantage of the sale, you can't take advantage of your trade-in. You can put those together and combine savings, which is really nice, especially going into the holiday season with all the sales that we have going on right now. You
also have a dealer program, and obviously you do fleet sales now. So if somebody is interested, that there's other options than to just going to the website. Obviously, again, we'll give that again, BATCADDY.com. To get more information, but if they want to purchase that, you have some dealers or representatives in various areas that people could visit, and if they wanted to go and take a look at it, is that am I gathering that right?
Well, we don't currently have outside of our main headquarters in California. We don't have any brick and mortar stores. We do have quite a big representation through the Green Golf, through the golf courses and the golf pros. That act as distributors for the product. So you can ask your local golf pro, and if they haven't they haven't heard about us yet, they should.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. By all means. And then you also have an option too for demo or pre-owned. So if somebody wants to save a little bit more, they have that option as well. But and they can get spare parts if needed. So there's a lot of different things here: bags and accessories, apparel, and obviously batteries if they need to get a new battery, what have you. And you got some other sales going on Black Friday, of course. You want to touch on very quickly about some of the other opportunities to capitalize on Black Friday.
Sure. All of our accessories are discounted right now. All of our models, our X Series and the Evo, are all discounted at different levels according to the model. But pretty much everything, this is the time of year if you want to get a BATCADDY. We've got everything on sale and pushed pretty much as far as we can go to give people the best prices possible for the year.
Well, you know what? For those particularly that in maybe some of the areas like in the Northeast or Northwest where climates are getting a little cooler, now's a good time to get that and take advantage of those savings. Maybe they're not heading south for the winter and they want to get something for next year rather than waiting until next year and maybe paying a little bit extra. They can get it now with these Black Friday deals and stock up and be ready to go at the beginning of next year. So for those of you that are not in climates like me and Paul in the South, as it were, this is a great opportunity to be able to do that. So again, the website is BATCADDY.com, and all of the information that we've been talking about here tonight is there. And you can check out the new one, which is available for pre-sales or pre-order, is the Evo 2, which is their newest model. And right now, if you order, you can save up to $200 off their retail price, and they're throwing in some extra accessories as well. So, and they'll be shipping those out a little bit later on this month. But yeah, Paul, thank you very much for coming on. It's exciting to, it's always exciting to new stuff, and I'm looking forward. I'm assuming obviously you guys will be back at the PGA in this upcoming January. I'm going to be there as well, and I'll make sure I stop by the booth.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Ted. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Paul Guzman, everybody, VP Marketing and Distribution for BATCADDY. Again, go to BATCADDY.com and check out all of their products. And right now, particularly, check out their Black Friday specials and definitely take advantage of them. But, Paul, have a great weekend. Happy Thanksgiving, and best of luck. And I guess I will see you in January. And thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live.
You bet. Take care, Ted. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye. All right, so again, BATCADDY's their new Evo 2, which is available for pre-sale. They'll be shipping it out on and around November 25th, so you can get on there and pre-order it now and save $200 off the regular price, which is a good deal, and they'll be throwing in a few extras, as I said. So go to BATCADDY.com, and it's BATCADDY is how you spell it, is how BATCADDY is spelled, all one word, .com. And all of the information there, all of their other products there, and all of the terms and conditions for their trade-in program is available. You can also, if you currently have one of their models and maybe you need to order a new battery, you can do that there as well. And they've got some great accessories as well, shirts and hats and that sort of thing. So make sure you check them out at BATCADDY.com. All right, I want to thank my guests again, John Decker and Brian Dobby, for joining me on the Coach's Corner panel. Always exciting and always have an interesting conversation. And once again, to tonight's featured guest, thank you, Paul Guzman, for joining me, the VP of Marketing and Distribution at BATCADDY. Again, just to remind everybody, the next couple of weeks I'll be doing shows the 12th, I believe it's the 12th and the 19th, and then I'll be off for, obviously, the week of Thanksgiving. There won't be a show. And then we'll have just a couple more shows early December, I believe the 5th and the 12th, for Golf Talk Live, and then we'll be breaking for the rest of December to enjoy the Christmas holidays, and then the month of January as I get ready to line some guests up for next year. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening, for tuning in. If you want to hear the full broadcast, if you're just coming in a bit late, you can go to blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live, and in a few moments, tonight's broadcast will be there in its entirety. The recorded version, you can scroll in and see that. Scroll down to the on-demand section, And then don't forget to join Cindy Miller and I every Tuesday morning on the blogtalkradio.com network for the Women of Golf show. And that airs live from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Golf Talk Live, as you know, airs from 6 to 8 p.m. Central here on the network. So on that note, have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coach's Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.